Hello and welcome everyone to another impromptu episode, or rather prompted episode of Discord in the Ranks, our community podcast for the Middle-earth strategy battle game, as well as the community that surrounds it. Sort of, I guess not exclusively on Discord, it's kind of just everywhere, but it's more of an excuse to just kind of ramble about the game that we love, and today we've got a special topic, and we have a special guest with us as well. So of course, I'm Commi. This is the King,
Hello.
but who's this other person?
Who's a special guest?
Yeah, they're very special indeed. Hi, my name's Val. I'm part of the Discord as well.
Nice. We have Val on today as we are going to be celebrating an anniversary. An anniversary that might not have a whole lot of relevance to King personally, so we're going to educate King today.
Yes.
This is the 20th anniversary of Battle Companies as it has existed in its entire life. So starting from the White Dwarf all the way to today, we're celebrating Battle Companies being 20 years old.
Oh, it's nearly as old as me.
Woo!
Listen to the footy duddies talking down to me, educating me. This should be great.
So, for those of you who don't know and are tuning in to this Battle Companies episode and you just missed the title, or you're curious what Battle Companies means, we're going to be taking you on a little bit of a tour of what Battle Companies is, what it means to make a battle company, as well as the history behind it, and then finally being able to talk about the Community Edition and what that means, why it exists. It's been talked about a little bit on Good Enough Battle Companies podcast and the North of the Shire podcast, but it's probably about time that the home team kind of talks about it a little bit, huh?
I think so.
Yeah, it's probably appropriate that we're late to our own party.
Makes sense.
So people are raving about it already. You just say like, oh yeah, maybe we should actually talk about it.
Maybe we should talk about it as well. Yeah.
Oh shoot, people actually care about this thing. All right.
Blimey.
So I think just to kind of start off and set some context, I'm going to provide just a brief crash course of the history of battle companies. Since this is the 20th anniversary, we should probably see where it came from, and then a little bit of its journey and where it is now. And then we can kind of get into describing, getting into it, the new changes coming out with the Community Edition, some new supplement that will be coming out. So without further ado, as a summary of what Battle Companies is in short, if you like games like XCOM, any of those video games where you have a cast of characters that grow from zero to hero, if you like telling the story of the nameless warrior of Minas Tirith and them turning into their own Boromir, then Battle Companies is a pseudo RPG campaign system where you take your Middle-earth strategy battle game models and tell a story by playing against other players, playing in pre-written campaigns, things like that. There's less of like a role-playing aspect built into the system, but I have heard of a lot of campaigns that bring a role-playing and acting element in between games or during games. And so it's got a lot of strength as a narrative system when you don't want to just retell the story of the Fellowship or the Battle of Helm's or what have you. So Battle Companies has been around for, as we've belabored, 20 years now, this July. And that's to United States reckoning. I don't know if it released a month earlier or two in the UK.
I think it was 2 months earlier, perhaps, in the UK. I remember seeing the White Dwarf because I was collecting them at the time.
Okay. Perfect. So, I mean, at least it's, we're recording this episode in June, so we're cutting the, the compromise in the middle of the timeline here. But for all intents and purposes, I guess the U.S. calendar is the one that's tracking this for the sake of this podcast. So, happy 20th anniversary!
Damn Yankees.
Yeah! So, Battle Companies started a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Oh, you did the bit.
Whoa, I brought in another franchise. In 2004 with Adam Troke. So everyone who's involved with the Middle-earth strategy battle game should be aware of who Adam Troke is. And this was in the early days of Adam Troke's career. He invented battle companies in the White Dwarf magazine. Specifically in US reckoning, it was issues 294 through 295, 296, and then 300. These were the first articles for battle companies and how to play, which included the campaign system with Gondor and Mordor. They introduced dwarves and Moria later on, and then they also had Dol Amroth and Harad as battle companies. So there were 6 factions initially.
Yeah.
I think somewhere in there they added Rohan, but I
Rohan and
couldn't find
Isengard
them.
got added a little bit later, I believe.
Gotcha.
But-
Okay. That must have been in the 2005 Redux. So
Probably.
July, August, September, January of 2004, or rather July, August, September of 2004. We go into January 2005 with issue 300, and then White Dwarf 310 through 311, November and December. So a whole basically year later, they rewrite the rules and tweak some things, and then Battle Companies kind of drops off the map. Games Workshop focuses on the War of the Ring. They start moving towards other kinds of content in the White Dwarves. And it was about 2014 when Battle Companies poked its ugly head up once more as Jonathan Baker led a team to revive Battle Companies and a set of community rules titled Battle Companies, Warbands, and Middle-earth. They updated the rules based on the original White Dwarf text, using a lot of the original mechanics.
God.
And when it was time to make a second edition of Warbands and Middle-earth, that's when I joined the team. And we worked on updating the rules, making some drastic, radical changes to battle companies that were never ever seen again. As a switch from this random recruitment system was changed to more of a point buy system, and it was cool, but it kind of missed the heart of what Battle Company's identity was, which was sort of a random storytelling mixed in with
Luck.
some choice. Yeah, exactly. Luck.
Completely luck oriented, yeah.
And so that second edition released in 2016, and then in 2017, it had gotten some attention from the community of Middle Earth as the DCHL, the Washington D.C. Hobbit League. They took the rules and they modified it for Nova that year, where they had DCHL hero companies, which was based on the Baker rules, but you had less models and they were all heroes, and they could get some really crazy artifacts, and was pretty awesome and dynamic for making quick and action-packed Battle Companies games.
Yeah, this explains a lot of your choices.
Yeah, so as we'll get into a little bit later in this episode, we're going to talk about some of the adaptation I did, some of the revivals I've done with help from members of the community. But then that same year, 2017, Games Workshop released Battle Companies as a rulebook towards the end of the Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey strategy battle game era. This doubled down on some of the original rules that were printed in White Dwarf. They added some changes, which some of them looked like they may have taken some inspiration from some previous work, but that's only allegedly. We like to take credit, but we can't confirm that we have any credit. And so that kind of existed. I remember playing with an old tabletop simulator group back in the early days of this Discord, with folks like Ringle and Blowthorn, to name a few. And we tried it out. It was pretty interesting. We quickly found that there were things that were wrong, so we started tried to write some formal rules to define how the game worked, but it was in 2019 that Battle Companies gets an update from Games Workshop. There is a new rule book that coincides with the Middle Earth strategy battle game. So
Honestly, the biggest surprise ever. Like,
yeah,
hey, this is this really weird, undefined rule set, which is completely divorced from the main rules. Yeah, we'll update it in 2 years. Sorry, what?
Yeah. It was crazy, and the fact that Battle Companies was getting this attention from Games Workshop sort of puts community edition work or community rule sets on hold for a little bit. Since GDO was releasing White Dwarf content, was doing a whole bunch of stuff, we were like, okay, well, hold on, let's slow our roll here, sort of pay attention. So maybe this is what we need to hold on to, because if it's getting as much attention as like Blood Bowl or what have you, which it certainly was not, but if it's starting to get that attention, then we should put the brakes on.
I mean, it's got formal. It's had more attention than Mordheim, mate. I wouldn't. I would shout it down.
And so there was then a period where there was no more updates for battle companies, except for like in Defense of the North. They added some factions. They added Dunland as a faction and a White Dwarf. Things were kind of slowing down, and problems and FAQ questions were kind of at a less of a rate than the other games, such as Middle Earth proper.
You can tell the truth, Commi. We had no FAQ question and answers for about a year and a half.
Okay, well, I was trying to be gentle, but yeah, we were kind of left with a rule set that there was some glaring issues in intercompany balance. There were some factions that were a bit of problems to have in play groups that just needed to be addressed.
Rangers of the North.
Yeah, Rangers of the North.
Sorry,
Ted of
my cough is back.
And so we decided one day, Val here, joined the play group in 2019.
It was 2021, mate.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. You added 2 years to your lifespan there. Okay, so
I've only been on the
2021
server since 2021, mate.
Okay, so 2021 to 2022, Val joins the group, and frustration with the system of battle companies is an all-time high. So one day, we sit down, instead of having this long pinned message post of all of the house rules that we're going to use for all of our campaigns and the tiering structure for battle companies and how much influence they cost, we go, right, since it's confusing to look at 3 different messages and look at the official rules and sticky notes, let's just formalize and make... let's make a spreadsheet first, which was this mess of, like, basically we wrote out a bunch of new like heroic paths and heroic path updates in a spreadsheet that people then had to reference. So there was like 7 documents people were looking at, and it was like so frustrating. So we put it into an official document. We made the community edition a formal set of rules and went through the tedious process of copywriting so much text to get one book to rule them all, and thank goodness we were able to finish it by March 2022. That is when...
Yeah, I think it took us about 6 weeks.
Yeah, we started in January 2022, and then it was kind of slow goings, and then there was 6 weeks where we just exploded and released it March 22nd, or March 2022 to Reddit, Daka, The One Ring, etc. So this is 3 years after Games Workshop's last release. And since then, multiple versions have been released on a largely semester-based or, annual basis, depending on how glaring some issues are that community members find. And the rest is pretty quick. A community member, Mithras, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us for today's episode, invents the signpost system for reformatting the heroic paths, moving basically titular special rules to number 7, the most common result, and evening out the growth of attack and wounds as far as probability on the table itself is concerned. So everyone gets attacks and wounds at the same rate. Everyone gets courage at generally the same rate. 7 is always something that's really important to the path. So being burly as a Path of the Warrior, or leading your troops with higher courage for the general, things like that. And that saw a huge improvement in heroes as they were related to the rest of how battle companies sort of functioned. And then from there, we started working on a new project, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. We'll talk about this new project that's been talked about in some other podcasts, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more formally after we stop listening to me tell this history. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this history.
Yeah.
This has been Commi's TED Talk.
Yeah, this is my TED Talk. Yeah, this is me trying to get into Sydney, Australia, so I can give a TED Talk on battle companies.
On battle companies and battle companies alone. we don't care about the main game. We don't care about the main game. Just battle companies.
Who needs
who needs Aragon? Who needs Legolas?
Exactly.
I'm all about my Dunland warrior named Wolfman Wolfsbane. There we go.
Yeah,
Wolfman Wolfsbane and his story. And his battle company story.
Or naming different warg riders after brands of...
Yes!
No, we've genuinely done that, King.
naming themes is fantastic for battle companies. Once you've like played battle companies a number of times, then it becomes a game of can you guess what theme my characters are? And one campaign mine was American automobile companies, and it was great. But I guess before we slide into our normal podcast format of just kind of talking about this stuff, I want to give a huge thank you to Good Enough Scenery / Good Enough Battle Companies podcast for doing some coverage on the rules. They've got a lot of content that talks about battle companies, comparing factions. They've had myself and Val on for an episode, and it's really cool just to see someone dedicate like a whole series to battle companies. And also like to thank North of the Shire. On has been is probably more passionate about battle companies than Val or I.
Which is insane.
Which is insane. Based out of Canada, Don has been doing battle companies stuff just personally for a long time, having a lot of fun with it, and was one of the first people I reached out to get some feedback on battle companies and the community rules. And I'm so glad to have Don in the email conversations and Don here in the Discord finally to be able to share thoughts. And then
which user is he?
That would be Don the Dwarf Lord, I believe.
Okay, I'll have to look out for his feedback when I see it come up.
Yeah, I gave them a green name because they are a content creator. They are the North of the Shire podcast, and lately Don has been doing some solo episodes about battle companies, about the community edition, and about Don's experience playing in campaigns that are using that rule set, which is very cool. And then this list is, and it's incredible this list is so long, but also the STF Fellowship on YouTube. I believe it is pronounced Andre, the Norwegian Viking, has slowed down on battle companies content lately, but historically had done a lot of content for battle companies during the previous community edition, back with Jonathan Baker's rule set, and battle companies as a whole. And then, of course, the community at large, the folks that come into the Discord, the folks before this project even started. And
I also want to give a shout out to Pat Gaunt, who of course is the guy who runs Battle Companies Manager.
Oh, and I'm so excited to talk about Battle Companies Manager. I'm going to stop thanking people because we should talk about that and how to make a company. Yes. So, King.
Yes. Come on.
Have you ever played?
Say, I've never played a game of battle companies, but let's say I'm on a bit of a Dunlin. I've got some wild. If I wanted to make a Dunlin battle company, or if it would be easier, how would I go about making a Dunlin? I can see in the Warfare handbook there is like a template for one. Now, is that like standard procedure? Every faction has you start with this, or can you build your own? Talk me through it.
Take it away, Val.
Okay, so you are correct. The one in the Warfare handbook would be normally that's Games Workshop's version of it, and that's your set company to it. There's a reinforcements chart, which for every 3 influence you get, you'd roll on the table. They've got a hero upgrade, you've got an advancements table, you've got a special chart, etc., etc. Yeah. Conventional rules would say that's all we're giving you. Community edition, we have that available. We've got a slightly better, in my opinion, and more updated, more inclusive version of that. Right. And you can also choose to start with your own custom company if you wanted to. You'd have to, rather than getting the models that you get listed, you'd get 50 points to play with. You could pick anything from a Dunland's list, which is anything on their reinforcement charts and their special charts.
Right.
Pick any combination of things, and if it comes to 50 points and it gets approved by the sort of guy running the campaign, you've got a custom company.
Sweet.
If you wanted to start with a Cremain, and you've got sufficient skills in bribing the GM, then you probably could.
Brilliant. So, not having to go one with a 200 with a bow and 4 wildmen, I could start off with just wildmen.
You could just start off with wildmen, yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, hoarding out is never necessarily a bad thing in battle companies.
Fair. So obviously you mentioned influence. I'm guessing per game you, depending on what you get, influence, and then after a game you've got this a post-game roundup, and that's where you get to reinforce your battle company.
That's absolutely right, man. So
Brilliant.
For wins you get 4 influence. For draws, you get 3, and for losses, you get 2. So you always can get something out of playing a game, which is vital to making it actually work. Because otherwise, the game would be fundamentally unfun for anyone who can't win games.
Yeah, I can see, like in a group, you just end up becoming bottom of the pile and staying there. It's like, oh, what? You've lost your first game. Oh, and your second. Sorry, that's where you're staying there.
Yeah, and it used to be that you kind of stayed at the as a slight tangent. One of the changes in Community Edition is that the person who's stuck at the bottom and getting stepped on by all the other companies, there's a way for them to catch up now.
At least you guys thought about that because it popped up often enough.
It was more a case of, so Games Workshop say if every 15 points difference between the two companies, the guy who's got less points, he gains 1 reroll during the game and 1 influence point for playing. Now the influence points, they're great, because obviously if you're behind, okay, well I might have lost, but if I was down by 45 points, well I gained +3 influence for that game.
Yeah.
But rerolls are shit, because if I've already got a company which is bad and worse and getting stepped on, okay, well, I can reroll 3 dice during this game. Cool. That's really going to come in handy.
Yeah, I guess like looking just at like what you can get just like from like banners, war horns, not really a thing in battle companies.
No, so war horns and banners are distinctly prohibited, because otherwise companies like Goblin Town are a major disadvantage.
Right.
They're absent. They're purposely absent. They get included sometimes as these things called narrative campaigns, where there'll be like set rewards for specific, milestone encounters that happen. But generally speaking, yes, banners and war horns are intended for armies, is the idea, and these are more of like your fellowship, as it were, your small entourage of troops. And there is a flag that you can still carry in, because yes, there'll be people who speak up and say, well, people do bring standards into, in those small groups. Well, and we say yes, they have the company standard, which is an item that exists in the equipment section, not even invented by us. Games Workshop invented it. We've just fine-tuned it to make it a little bit more relevant, and we're trying to strike a balance to make it, not a overbearing item. Yeah,
not a must-have, but always something you might want to take.
Yeah, and I actually have some ideas. I really wish the rallying horn didn't exist, so then the company standard could be the rallying horn. Because then that would be so cool that, like, you have the flag that draws more troops to you. But anyways, that's a whole tangent.
Right. So I'm obviously in the roundup to making a battle company earlier. One of you mentioned a hero. So the battle company, like when you've got your battle company, do you choose one of them to be a hero, or is that something that develops? Like everyone starts off as a warrior, but if someone gets enough something like I don't know, XP or influence, they become a hero. Is that how it works, or?
Yeah, so a bit of both. So when you start, you pick one of your models. They are considered your leader, which just means that if there's any rewards which are leader only, they get them. And you pick two other models, and they're your sergeants. And each one of those starts as basically a minor hero. In terms of they've got one might, one will, one fate point. What would be a good example? I guess like Baragond or regular Dunedain model in regular, like
I get you. Yeah. I'm Bull and Mablung, the minor heroes with like very much a warrior stat line, but with my will.
With my will fate, and
exactly.
You can gain experience for playing games, obviously, and your regular warriors, they can still promote to become heroes, and if so, they become a hero in the making, which means they gain a fate point, and now they gain experience like a hero. Heroes gain experience quicker than warriors, so it does advantage you to have more heroes.
Right.
And they'll start out sort of more like a Pippin who's got like one fate point and that's it. But they can still grow into a Boromir or a Aemir or Theoden, whatever you want. So
yeah, if they live long enough.
Yeah, it's the system in which they grow. It's similar to I guess like D&D could be a decent analog.
Mm.
As so different accomplishment that a model does can earn them XP. So wounding a model can earn them XP. Participating in a game gets them XP. For heroes in the community edition, if they succeed on at least one fate roll, they gain an XP. So if there's some things that you can do to earn the XP, and then every 5 that you get gets you to roll on a heroic path. So there's different kinds of character classes, so to speak, that a
Right.
hero could progress down, like warrior or ranger or skirmisher or sorcerer, things like that. And
Also,
you
magic's
roll.
involved.
Yeah, there's a magic system built into one path, the sorcerer. There's like a
Yeah.
pseudo magic path, which is a minstrel, which is like a our bard sort
Which
of
is
character,
from Mithras.
and is a very popular path too. Folks really like the idea of a musician
Yeah.
being
I
present,
mean, how can
present
you
in the
not like
company.
bards?
Exactly. I mean, to have a scary, bagpipe blowing, sword wielding guy leading the front, that's pretty sweet.
That's pretty sick. I'm gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool path, and there's been some changes now with this 20th anniversary edition of the community edition rule set that is hopefully making the minstrel less tricky to use. It's going to be a little bit easier to make the minstrel feel like they are being helpful.
He's going to feel more like a bard and less like a basic stabby guy who sometimes can sing songs.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Making music is his job, not his hobby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And these heroic paths are. I kind of touched on it a little bit when I talked about Mithras' signpost invention.
Yeah.
There's a 2d6 table that you roll on, and so there's like that bell curve that's innate in a 2d6 system. And so the more identity-based abilities or some like the more generic results are on that top of the bell curve, and then the stronger abilities or the abilities that perhaps aren't either more powerful or they are something that you don't necessarily want to have right away. They reside on the lower end of the bell curve. So getting a heroic action, for example, is a great example of something that is
Always 11s.
it's always on the 11 result, and it's specifically not higher because when a hero is starting out, they have less might. So it was important that heroic actions, which are might dependent, are less common to get, just so that you have a little bit more time to get might points and get a little bit stronger, so you can actually use and benefit from those heroic actions.
Alright, cool.
So while they are debatably powerful, it was important that they were a little more uncommon.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think we've got a decent selection of different archetypes in there now.
Yeah, we've got like 12 paths, maybe
12
more.
normal paths and 2 paths for beasties.
How many
Yes.
started off in the base game?
6, I think.
Six? So you doubled it.
6 at the very start, 8 in the latest version that Games Workshop put out.
Right.
But
Right, 'cause they
one was
added
beasts.
Beast. Yeah, they added Beast and something else.
Probably Sorcerer, I think.
Some of that growth, so we doubled the amount of paths that existed. Some of those were out of cool ideas that we had or archetypes that we thought was important to have in a party dynamic, but 2 of those were added because 2 of the original paths got split in half for
Too
power.
strong.
Yeah, they were too strong. Path of the Warrior and Path of the Ranger, 2 paths that were very dominating because you get
Right.
XP primarily by like doing damage.
Kills.
And the Warrior and the Ranger were really good at it. The Ranger was what Legolas wants to be when he grows up. Like the Ranger could shoot twice, it could move full and shoot. It had all like free might
No
points to spend.
movement penalty.
Yeah, it was a crazy mobile turret, and it just annihilated folks. And so we felt it was important to split the Ranger into Ranger and then Sharpshooter. So the Sharpshooter got like more of the concentrated damage abilities, and the Ranger became more of like Aragorn. It became more. It gets some attacks. It's a little bit better in melee, and it can shoot twice, but it's not like deadly accurate, and it's not throwing free might points into the throats of every other enemy model. The Sharpshooter got one really good shot. It can do double wounds. It's more likely to wound.
Yeah, it's
that
got
sort of
mighty
thing.
blow, but for shooting.
Yeah.
Right.
Which creates 2 like roles for an archer, which Brett's choice. It
You're
allows you to
now not
explore
getting your
different
cake and
kinds
eat it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the warrior was very strong. It could do everything and more. It had
Wow.
heroic strike. It had burly. It had the ability to reroll one of its own dice and one of its opponent's dice.
Yeah, it had Rumila's parry.
Yeah, and it was
And it could get a free heroic combat every turn.
oh
bro.
gosh, yeah. Yeah, it was really good. So what we did is we split that into two. We had Path of the Warrior and Path of the Duelist. Duelist got all the abilities about winning fights and being good against fighting heroes specifically. And then the
Yeah.
Warrior became more of like a troop mincer. It does not have strike. It does not have the ability to parry and reroll. It's dual rolls, but it's really good at just like destroying stuff.
Nah, so Path of the Warrior, the gym pass then.
Yeah. And we haven't had a whole lot of complaints since that sort of splitting of those two paths. Creating distinct roles has been nice. Obviously, having a warrior and a duelist hang out together is still really, really good. But you have to invest in two models instead of just one, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm guessing it also takes like a fair few games to get to a level where like you're like smashing through the entire ranger tree. I'm guessing like you're not getting to max level in a campaign, like maybe in a very long campaign.
It's pretty tricky. You've got to feed a hero kills. And it is definitely to the benefit with these splits because I remember seeing Dr. Kirkland, who's a member of the server. He had 3 rangers in his company because at the time rangers and warriors were the most broken paths.
Yeah,
and at least one of them was maxed out because it was just that easy to max them out.
Right, yeah, because at the time they could just sit back and just gather XP from the shots.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And so we're hoping that like folks that like having archer heroes still are able to enjoy it by having the sharpshooter and ranger split because now they can sort of have specific roles for them without one of them being like the doom guy. Just ripping and tearing through battle companies. And so because we didn't want to discourage that sort of gameplay, we just wanted that sort of gameplay to be compatible with other companies that might take different paths, some that focus on mid-range or what have you,
some that can't take bows.
Yeah, some that can't take bows because shooting was pretty dominant. And one thing that we also had to make clear in battle companies is that the Games Workshop rules do not let you round up your bow limit. You have a hard cap at 1/3. So when you have 10 models, you can't have 4 bows. You can have 3. And so we made that more apparent in this rule set. And it ended up being really healthy for the game because shooting in Middle Earth is something that kind of just provides pressure. But in battle companies, when your group is only like 10 models or 12 models, when you have 1 or 2 of them die before the lines clash, you've lost a significant percentage of your force. And and then when shooting is in the hands of models with might points, that's more than just the 1 or 2 that a King's Huntsman gets. Suddenly it's more reliable to take opponents down. So shooting is a pretty scary thing to face, which is why it's also important. I encourage folks to build boards that have a lot of line of sight blocking. Think like Mordheim or Necromunda. A lot of things around the place so that it's less of a field pitch battle and it's more of a skirmish game. And it's good stuff. And now, so King, you've got your Dunland force. You've picked who your leader is and who your sergeant is, and the roster. Now, Val, how is King gonna track his guys? What tool could King use to record his roster and track its progress?
Is it a notepad and pen?
Well, yeah, you could. That was like that was the most egregious way of leading into Battle Company's manager I've ever heard. I'm not gonna lie. Battle Company's manager is a website program ran by a guy called Pat Gaunt, and it's pretty much just a place where you can keep track of everything. So you go on the website, and there's a simple option to just create a company. Then you can choose which race. He's already got all the races listed down, and he even has specifically accommodating for us and a couple other group, maybe like a couple other people, but more or less us because we asked for it. There's even a custom section, so you can even put in our unique companies for Community Edition in there. You can put like a name for your company, a little backstory if you really want.
Yeah, I'm just looking. This looks really cool. I love that. Ditch the comes in PDF and try out the easy way of managing our battle company today. That's excellent.
The only issue that anyone wanting to use it has is they're going to have to submit all their own stuff. So any warrior profiles you need to submit yourself, any armory items like swords or whatever, if you want to put stats on them or like give rules so that someone can just click on it and read what it does, you have to submit all that yourself. But
Right.
I've done that. God, I can't remember. I would have done this back in 2021. I've got practically everything needed for battle companies set up on there already, and it just means you can just point and click it as if it was just a regular army builder.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's really good.
and it saves it from a little bit of issues with copyright infringement by not having the stats in. It's a spreadsheet that you then fill in, kind of, but with a really nice UI. Pat Gaunt came out of nowhere building this system. It's been now the mainstay for battle companies tracking, because you can post your link and your campaign organizer doesn't have to track you down for your PDF.
I mean, hell, I'm just going to do one here for you, King, so you can have a quick look at something that I've got queued up for a campaign at some point.
Yeah, go ahead, because I've literally just got the site open. I've just registered. I'm having a
so
quick browse.
I've just put it in the channel. So
yeah, let's have a look at this.
A tip while King is taking a look at this off camera. It is important when you're putting your stats in, because like Val mentioned, you got to put your profiles in for your characters, which you can create a profile template, and then you can import that for each new character. So if you made, Dwarf Warrior as a profile in your library, you can just pull from it. But when you're setting up that library, it's really important that you assign what defense value your armor and shield and stuff give, and you make sure that your warrior profile has the defense value as if they weren't wearing those things. So then it all just gets added together for you. And when you that way, if you were to ever upgrade their armor or buy them a shield, Battles Company's manager will reflect in real time what their defense is now.
Yeah, it means it's very automatic.
Yeah. I can see this rating 99. What's that about?
Okay, so the rating is literally just the points cost. So
right. No worries.
I've got so it's just points cost.
Yeah, it's a holdover from like Mordheim and Necromunda, where you had your gang rating.
That would explain it.
And I think what it was like intended for is to show rating of power rather than like they're trying to, I guess, maybe move away from like the or something. But it's the same.
I guess in like in a few games, you're not going to always have equal rating battle companies. So it's like, well, my battle company is rated 80, mine's rated 65. Go from there. I guess with points, you kind of have a bit more of that match play idea. Like they're supposed to match. They're supposed to be closer to each other to be a more fair, balanced affair. Where this is like, no, this is what my company's rated because they went through this amount of stuff. That's what your company, because that's how much they went through, etc.
Yeah, 100%.
Sweet, makes sense.
Yeah, it's a useful tool. I could not recommend it enough. It's so convenient because you can, even when you start a campaign and you have your company in this program, there's a start battle button where you can then start tracking your might, will, and fate as you spend it, the wounds that you've dealt or received, and then as long as you've been logging that, which is it behooves you to do that. When you hit end battle, it's going to process. Oh, this guy went to 0 wounds, so we should prompt the player to roll an injury for this character. Or, oh, this guy is now at a threshold of 5 XP, so we need to prompt the player to roll an advancement. So we're going to ask them what their advancement was. And it's got some displays to remind you that you have these injuries. So if your guy's missing a game, the card that they're on, like these little 8.5 by 11 things that they're on, they flip over to show that they're missing the game. And if they have some sort of other injury, there's going to be an effect that's going to be on the card. It might be like the symbol of like a broken leg or what have you.
Yeah.
Because your characters, your heroes in particular, can gain injuries. They can break their arms, break their legs, and basically have this attrition of war happen to them, which there are ways to recover. But it's handy that this thing helps you keep track of those, because there's otherwise notepad and pencil is my favorite thing ever, but it can be a little hard to track everything. With this tool, just kind of helps.
Yeah.
It's really new player friendly.
Yeah, it looks very new player friendly, to be fair. And that after being a form, like, yes, you do have to do a little bit of the work of putting your profiles and such in. That'll be not a problem, because if you're going to be spending time on a battle company, you're going to be doing a bit of work beforehand anyway.
Yeah.
I think just being able to do that, and then from there, it's there forever. Like, it's always there. There's no chance of you losing it unless you lose your account details. It's just like, you will always have your dwarf profile, you'll always have your wildman profile, you'll always have your whatever profile. So whenever you're making a new company, it's all there ready.
I would also recommend you can also just donate. Like, I mean, I donated £1 to disable the ads on my account. That's really, I just think it's really nice. Like £1 to just keep this thing running for him, and this is a one-time payment. You can obviously donate more when you want if you have the money free. But
oh, for sure, yeah. It's a free software, and it's just all right, if you really like it, give us a bit of support. But it's not behind a paywall, so
no, I just would
I mean,
recommend putting in the courtesy amount just so you can disable your ads, because that way you can see your every member of your party or your company or whatever are just in a line without having to see, this is a character, this is a character, this is a character, this is that. This is a character.
Yeah, right, fair. It just clears it up a little bit. But yeah, a one-off pace of a tiny amount such as that makes complete sense to do. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, the community around battle companies is so great because it's all just folks that want battle companies to be better.
Yeah.
Which kind of is what prompted the community edition itself. Is we really like battle companies. For whatever reason, we don't want to leave and play a different game that's better. So why not let's fix the one that we have. and I mean, also half of it too is that like battle companies, a lot of the appeal is that it's a Middle Earth game, and it's paired with the Middle Earth strategy battle game, and so being able to take your models from the main game or vice versa is convenient. Middle Earth, you love Middle Earth, then battle companies already have scored some points for you. And so we're like, well, we might as well fix it, and so that ended up prompting us to go through those sort of fixes for the different paths or the economy, or making it so some paths don't recruit as quickly as others because they have to spend more influence, that resource, the monetary resource. They have to spend more to get their elite troops compared to like Sharky's rogues, who are able to get their
elves
troops
actually
cheaper.
have attacks on them.
Yeah, because originally in the rules you paid a flat. You have three influence, and you got a guy, or you rolled on the table rather, and so 3 influence could get you a hobbit. 3 influence could get you a Ranger of the North, which is 5 times this number of the points. 3 influence could get you a spider. And so we felt that was important to like kind of tier out the factions to figure out, okay, how can we represent the points difference of these guys in the cost it takes to recruit them. And so the easiest answer ended up being basic companies pay 3, just like they used to, and then the horde ones pay 2, and the elite ones pay 4. And it seems to be working quite well, because that means that if a horde company loses, they get 2, they can still roll and get a guy. If a basic company draws, they can still roll and get a guy. And then if a elite company wins, they can roll and get a guy. But elite company now has to win.
It does kind of fuck elite companies a little bit, but on the other hand, elves, Iron Hills, these companies are stronger in general, so it makes sense they have to go that little bit of an extra mile.
Yeah, and especially once you get like a Boons of a Hero to get an extra D6 influence or what have you, you'll be right back up there in the economy. But it helps slow down the roll, which is important, and helps those weaker factions. Because the one thing too is the weaker factions represent more XP because there's more of them, and it's easier to kill them. So the elite factions can eat the horde factions, get a lot of XP. They just aren't going to be growing their numbers as quickly as these other ones. So it really helps there.
Stops you getting an elite horde, if anything.
Yeah. Honestly, it's great stuff. So what drew you to battle companies, Val? Like what drew you to battle companies, and what's like your favorite faction?
Okay, well, I mean, I've been playing. Well, to me, it's always going to be called Lord of the Rings Warhammer because that's what it was when I started. It's always going to be that because I've been here playing in the hobby since 2003, on and off. So I saw Battle Company when it first came out, and it was interesting at the time. Wasn't very well fleshed out, obviously, but the idea set behind it was there. And I just like the idea of, oh look, I can customize my guys, give them a grappling hook, and suddenly they can actually do something interesting. I can have a warrior of like Minas Tirith, and he can have a bow and a spear, and he can have poison on those things. That sounded interesting to me. I don't remember if this was legal or not at the time. Probably wasn't, but that was what drew my interest initially. Obviously, I've come back to it. I just like the role playing aspects of it in general. The ability for me to say, yeah, I'm going to have, I don't know, I'm going to create my own fellowship, or I'm going to have a way to play Range to the North without getting my ass kicked like in regular gameplay. Because everyone knows Ranges are ridiculously undercut, like like underpowered at the moment. My favorite faction at the moment is still definitely the Shire. I love having silly little hobbits killing things, and in battle companies, that's so much easier, especially now that in Community Edition.
Yeah,
because I was like, I want to make hobbits more fun. So now hobbits and goblins can get slingshots, which is that it's that weird item that's in everyone's main rule book. And when you look through the army through the army books to say who the hell has this weapon, the only person is Ori in Foreign Company. It's the only time that weapon ever comes up.
Yeah,
but it's in everyone's rule books, and they've got a stat line for it in everyone's rule books, and they've got some more common items in the army books which don't have like associated rules manuals like bits, which is just mad to me. But
yeah,
I was like, yeah, let's just have slingshots for hobbits and goblins because I want to throw stones more. And now, last campaign I played Shire, I was the terror of the campaign purely because I had hobbits with slingshots. It was like, Val's just playing Shire. Val with his 12 slingshot wielding hobbits, therefore they can throw stones twice a turn.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And a bit of an investment was to get there, because you still have to pay the influence each. So
to
our listeners who are like, whoa, what is this? What is this developer abuse? There is a cost. There
it
was
cost me like one influence a slingshot. So it's pretty expensive.
That's a lot of hobbits. Yeah. I love seeing when you bring the Shire to the table. It's always good fun to all the farmers destroying people with rocks, mallets.
It's even more fun when you're killing dwarves with them.
Yeah. The 6x6 to kill the dwarf.
Nah, it's fine. I'll do that. I need a 3 to hit, and I get 2 rolls per Autobit.
King, when are you gonna play Battle Companies, huh?
I mean, like on this Dunland High, I could definitely see myself giving Battle Companies a go. I remember there's one time I listened into you, and I think it was Brazen, and I think you were playtesting fiefdoms, like fiefdoms Battle Companies. Is that something that you guys created? Or was that something in the base game and you guys fixed?
Slightly changed it. I don't think we've done too much.
Right. I remember that going on. I was like, oh, I like fiefdoms. Like they're like my second main faction over the Mordor. So that could be really cool to do. But then I just kind of got wrapped up in playing more Middle Earth. But yeah, I could definitely see myself bringing up a Dunland group. Give them a bit of backstory. Give them maybe just starting off the basic one, but like making my leader the guy with the two-hander, on that path of the warrior to make him burly. And next thing you know, I've got the next Gorulf bench lifting, drop kicking master. As long as he doesn't get shot in the face with a rock.
Who's your current favorite faction, Commi? Is it still Sharkies or?
Yeah, I think my favorite faction is Sharky's Rogues. Because doing that same thing that you're describing, King, taking like that one dude and turning him into this gym bro who's bench lifting orcs and spiders and stuff is super fun. I love Sharky's Rogues. They're probably the worst faction.
Okay.
But
it's not anymore. They were.
Well, I don't know. I mean, what's worse than Sharky's Rogues?
you're putting me on the spot here, to be fair, but there are. I'd rather run certainly factions. I'd rather run. I'd rather run Sharkies for than run them.
Okay, but like, okay,
Interesting.
true. Interesting wise, I think Sharkies is not the least interesting company. I really like Sharkies because even though they're kind of like the underdogs, because they're all like fight, 1, 2, or
Fight two.
whatever. They're fight. Yeah, they're all fight 2. That feels like fight 1 because everyone's fight 3 and higher. Even though they're like losing a lot of fights and they die 50% of the time just to a basic Rohan guy. It's just great because you can grab whatever models that just look dirty and peasant, and boom, you've got a Sharky's Rogue company. I do own some Sharky's Rogue models, so one day I'm going to play Sharky's Rogue in an IRL campaign.
Oh, good!
You can also,
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear that Commi's been blasting where there's a whip, there's a way on repeat endlessly for a tournament.
I mean that is his motto. He might have it in his about me with his way, but I think that'll be his biography title as well. And if he was a man to get tattoos, it might be across his chest as a mantra. So we've got a Shire lover, a Sharky's Rogue lover, and they're like, I like something that's involved in the last half of the book, of the final book of the trilogy.
Yeah. Well, the best bit is that we amusingly we also like the only 2-cost influence companies that we have in Community Edition because everything else is too. Because everything else is too strong if it's 2 influence reinforcements.
So when you,
go ahead.
I was going to say, basically, so when it comes to, like, obviously, you guys said, like, Shire and Sharky Rogue, when you're going to make, like, your leader, your hero, like, what goes into behind, like, thinking which, what they call, paths, like, how you mentioned, you have Ranger and that. When it comes to you guys creating your hero of your full character, I should say. When it comes to the path, when you're like, which path do you mainly go down, or which path do you find the most fun to play, etc.?
I'll let Commi go first here.
Right. Okay. No worries. So
Commi, you go first, mate.
So generally when I'm building a battle company overall, there's like a few staple paths that are good to go for. You can't really go wrong by having like your general or your ranger. If you're trying to be by the book. But generally speaking, my favorite paths to go for are some of the more lopsided paths that are like kind of specialized, but in one thing and really bad at another. One of which is the Path of the Martyr, which is a new path that came out in the most recent Community Edition update back in, was it last November? And
yeah, I think it's November.
It used to be when it was being created and drafted. I'm sad that it did not keep the name, but it makes sense that it's called Path of the Martyr. But it was originally called Path of the Bean, as in good old Sean Bean, because the path was based around Boromir, and the idea that your guy is going to die.
I guess fate is prohibited.
Yeah, so we could have had him with 0 fate. What we ended up doing is giving him a special rule called Fated End, where you're allowed to use fate, sure, because like, I guess I couldn't be bothered to write down the rule. You can't gain fate. You have 0 fate.
Right.
But what we did was that we've had Fated End as a special rule where they do not count towards your battle company's breakpoint. So the death of this martyr is free. But whenever you roll fate, you roll twice and you take the lowest number.
Right. Okay. That's cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah. that's a good way of mitigating it a bit, at least. It's like, you kind of need to die, but there's a chance.
Yeah.
For a D&D term, you're rolling at disadvantage.
Right.
Yeah. And I love that path as my leader, which can be counterintuitive because some of the scenarios you're trying to keep your leader alive. But I just love having a Sharky's Rogue guy eventually become like a 6 might hero who's running and dying and then whirl blading his whip as he falls to the ground. So great because we added like Death Blow from Haldir, so that like that hit that happens to everyone that's attacking him when he dies. And then we also added Sharku's riding dagger.
Yeah.
So whenever he gets wounded but doesn't die,
it's not. It's when you strike against him, you don't wound him.
right?
Then
he gets to poke back. And so if someone rolls their dice at this guy one at a time and like has 3 dice, fails on the first 2, and then kills him on the last one, they get stabbed twice by this guy, and then the guy falls to the ground and then Beyblades and hits everybody. And it's just so goofy. I like goofy stuff.
So
that's good.
Is that like maxing out the tree to do that, or is that?
No, that's just two. That's just 2 rolls.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just 2 rules to get the Beyblade and the riding dagger, basically.
I think they're difficult, from what I remember.
They're not high probability to get, but also if you do get those 2 first, you're only going to be doing a strength 3 hit, because it's not strength 4 like it says in Haldir's. It's based on the character's actual strength.
Right,
so it'll be kind of it'll be a weak version until they grow and increase their strength and get better stats. And so it'll kind of scale with them, which is nice. And the other thing that's also really cool about the Path of the Martyr, and I really enjoy, is their signpost ability. So I'm going to take you back to the Fellowship of the Ring, where Boromir is in his last stand is defending the hobbits as best as he can. And all of these Uruk-hai are charging him. Right?
Yes.
They could have declared charges on the hobbits, but I guess they're not. So to represent this, we added a special rule to Boromir, which, or rather, sorry, not to Boromir, to the Path of the Martyr. I wish it was given to Boromir, which is called "You shall not pass," which stealing Gandalf's quote. But the idea is that the Path of the Martyr does not lose their control zone when they are charged. They only lose it once they have been considered trapped.
Interesting.
So you can sit the martyr like in a choke point, and they can hold off a bunch of models to protect the rest of your company, which is pretty cool, because there's no other mechanic that really does that other than like Tom Bombadil. And so it was cool, the idea of this person's like taunting everyone and making them, they have to gang up on this guy before this guy can really be slowed down. So to speak.
Right, okay. So Path of the Martyr is the path of the tank who's ready to die. It's not the tank who needs to heal.
Yeah.
It's the tank who's like, I am ready to die. Just come at me first.
Yeah, and it's not hard to kill them because they're restricted. They can't have higher than defense 6. So if they ever would increase beyond it, they're stuck at it, and they can't gain wounds. So they are very much like the distraction Carnifex sort of idea, as sort of an antithesis to the Path of the Defender, which is like the bodyguard sort of path, where you've put the guy gets a shield and is able to use Thorin Oakenshield's ability to shield and then strike back and all that stuff to give you more of that, defender sort of thing. But I like the Martyr as the tank where they're distracting everyone, bringing them in, and it's really hard. They once that happens, they Beyblade and everything, and pairing the two together is really fun. So that brings me to my second choice: is I have a Martyr, I have a Defender, and then for my third one, I generally pick like Sorcerer because magic is fun. Who doesn't like having a little mini Gandalf?
I don't know if you've had a look at the link I showed you, King.
I have done. I can see that.
Right.
Your own Gandalf the Grey.
Yes. So I had to do the day with Path of the Sorcerer in the latest campaign because I just wanted to have Gandalf leading a bunch of hobbits on a little adventure.
Yeah.
I just have fun with it. So I just go, what do I want to do this time? Do I want to have my guy have a shield? All right, yeah, I'll have Defender. Do I want him to be quick on his feet? Okay, maybe I'll make him a Watchman, give him so we can get a free dog. Do I want him to be a ninja guy? Yeah, why not? I'll go Path of the Skirmisher. So I just have fun with it.
Yeah. Cool.
I just pick whatever sounds fun that time. And just to date this episode, because it has just dropped today, so anyone who actually has been keeping up with Warhammer community, we're at it. I think we need to use this somewhere. Commi, have you seen the new hero?
I did take a quick peek at this scavenging ability. That is hilarious.
I think we need to add this to a path. So a path of the burglar. Yes. might end up in the rules before
What was that? Path of the Burglar.
Yeah, it doesn't exist except for there is a campaign event that happened where they introduced everyone got a Hobbit hero
Yeah.
as part of their company, regardless of what faction they are. And then they made a Hobbit only path called Path of the Burglar, which had some cool rules associated with it. And so that could potentially become where we that might actually see the light of day in the community edition proper. If
Yeah.
not, I mean, the Battle Company's Bazaar is more than happy to host it.
Oh yeah, we will definitely be hosting it somewhere. That is a lovely rule that's gonna be being used at some point somewhere by me. I guarantee.
So funny. That's so good. For those, I guess, that are listening that aren't aware of the June 13th Warhammer Community Post, there was an Arnor or Angmar orc captain revealed that can steal Andoril.
Or the One
Yeah.
Ring. Oh no, not the
No,
One Ring.
he can't,
Yeah,
can't,
not
he
the
can't,
One
he can't
Ring.
steal the One Ring.
But he can steal, and if he kills Aragorn, he gets Andoril, which is awesome. I now want to play Angmar, which is crazy.
Yeah, you just could get him nice and transfixed or paralyzed, walk over there with that, and just go. That Master Forge two-handed axe is looking fantastic. Thrain, gimme.
Anyway,
oh my god! Wait, can you kill the Balrog and get his fiery lash?
Oh Lord, imagine if you could. It says
items
nothing
of
in
war gear
the
that are
model.
integral to the model, but I don't think the fiery
Yeah.
lash is integral to the model because that says claws and teeth.
Yeah.
So maybe
Lash is something he conjures up.
watch that be FAQ'd away immediately once this drops. But yes, I believe that's how it should work.
For sure. Yeah.
I would love that. Oh my gosh. I want this random orc captain from the north to just hit a model with a fiery giant whip.
Anyway.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the tangent divulge.
Yeah.
Before we go too far down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just have fun with my path choices. So yeah, this last campaign where I was running Shy, I had it Sork. I've been running in the current campaign we've got because we play campaigns just to playtest. I've been playtesting a bunch of stuff. I've been playtesting the new Minstrel rework. I've been playtesting the new Skirmisher rework. Who's died in that campaign? Everyone's been killing all my guys during this campaign, I've noticed, which is just funny. Yeah, so my Watchman died and my Duelisters died in this campaign, so that's been good. But no, I just have fun with it. I just pick whatever. There's never a bad choice, in my opinion. There's only choices which might not necessarily seem quite as useful as beforehand. But I mean, as Shy, for example, my last Shy campaign, I had a sergeant who went Path of the Night, which means they turn into a cavalry model. Well, Shy can purchase ponies, and ponies sound like dog shit, right?
Yeah, ponies don't seem great.
Right, except Hobbit Militia only have fight 1, so a pony doubles their fight value to fight 2.
Brilliant.
And any knight hero can gain a lance. So strength 4 hobbits with a lance. Yes, please.
That's pretty sick, man.
Anyway.
Wow.
So big reveal time, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like, it used to be a lot to just your war bands, your battle companies, I should say. And you talked about a fair bit, so why not reveal what you want to reveal about it? Eh?
Yeah. So, and partly, I mean, obviously we're working on this before I noticed that there even was a 20th anniversary coming up. But hey, now it's for the 20th anniversary. A project which was sort of being worked on as
we've been working on it for 2 years.
Yeah, we've been working on it for 2 years. It was sort of like a back burner thing because I was trying to adapt the DCHL Hero Company's rules, some co-op rules, because more of it a selfish desire for our local here in the state of Maine. Because I wanted to appeal to their interest in having a co-op campaign format. So I was like writing up some rules, and then one day we're like, what about that map campaign that we haven't touched? And we're like, what about this? And what about the fact that we have updated the Games Workshop campaigns to be compatible with Community Edition. And then the idea then sort of, naturally came about from the group. Yeah, let's make a campaign supplement. So that's what we've been working on for the past 2 years, to release to the company the community at large, to enable players to expand on the core campaign functions of the Community Edition book, where it goes over the economy and how you level up and stuff, and providing some campaign formats, including updating the Games Workshop narrative campaigns, where there was a series of 5 scenarios you played with some PvP games, player versus player, in between, that had a loose story to follow along. So updating all of those up to Community Edition, as well as some new campaign formats that are unique to, well, anything, I guess, of the Battle Company's sort of line. And I won't give away everything. Maybe Val will, but there is quite a few different ways that you can participate in the campaign, as it's presented in this campaign supplement. So you've got the
No,
narrative campaign.
I'll let those
What?
stay. I'll let those stay a surprise for people. I will elaborate on something I revealed a few months ago for anyone who's
Mhm.
listened to previous podcasts, which is the Lost Expedition, which is our first custom campaign, which we created partly as a way to show people how they can make their own narrative campaigns, and partly because I just thought it was fun. It's basically Balin's expedition into Moria, but for battle companies.
Oh yeah.
And it's probably the easiest campaign in terms of collecting like models, because normally you need about, I don't know, half a dozen different factions worth of models, like a few Lake Town guards and some spiders from Dark Denizens of Mirkwood, and how about some Angmar models?
Yeah.
And we're like, nah, screw that. We'll just have a Moria one. So
Yeah.
there's that one.
That's very
And
exciting.
we've also finally reworked the map campaign. Goddamn
Yes, and
map campaigns.
I want to highlight a specific group of players that were a huge instrumental help, because we basically just copied what they said verbatim.
Right.
There is the community, in Europe, specifically Portugal and Spain and whatnot. That area of Europe, there's a TeamSpeak community. And Piotes is a player that we've had in a number of our campaigns here on Tabletop Simulator / Discord. A great player to have in a group. They, as a whole, re-engineered the map campaign that we see in the book to be a bit more balanced, because the Games Workshop's map campaign, it used the map of Middle Earth, and it tried to be faithful to where things were, to then put bonuses there, which meant that Gondor and Mordor and Minas Morgul and Osgiliath were really tight and clustered together, and so that was heavily weighted toward that part of the map, and there were 3 players could start next to it, and other people had to be over near Kond, where there was nothing. And it was just kind of lopsided in its design. And the way that some of the abilities worked, and some of it didn't really make sense, it was just a kind of a tricky pickle for us to like sit down and want to just fix, because there's a lot to it. And the TeamSpeak community came together, fixed it up. They evened out the spaces. They came up with a system for randomizing where bonuses are on like an even spread, and it was so genius. I the answer was sitting there right for all to see, and they were the ones who found it and formalized it and made it awesome. And so what we did is that we just lifted that. We said, thank you. Please send me your notes so we can add it to the campaign supplement for the community edition. And the only changes that we've really made to their system is that we moved from their sort of island map that they were using and put it back onto Middle Earth, but spread out all of the tiles to be in. So they're not tied to specific locations anymore, especially since the bonuses are random. But now everyone is going to have basically an equal opportunity to the same number of territories, as best as I could manage with the map of Middle Earth to keep it thematic. Obviously, some people get to start near the coast and some don't, but at least everyone is at most 2 tiles away from getting their first advancement, instead of one person being 1 tile away from 3 territory bonuses and advancement,
Which are
and everyone
brilliant
else.
as well.
Yeah, which are very good. And then as part of that, we introduced the center tile, the one tile or one hex to rule them all. There is a reason that you want to go into the middle of the map is because the middle tile gets to pick their bonus out of the hat instead of drawing it randomly from the hat. And so you can, if you really want a specific bonus, you want to have those horses be cheaper or whatever, then you gotta race for the middle of the map, which is kind of like that cornucopia in the middle for everyone to fight over. Which is pretty fun. As for the other things included in the campaign supplement, I'll give you the titles for them and then leave you with the mystery. So there is one narrative campaign that I wrote that hasn't been play tested, and so there's going to be a call to the community to please play test this campaign because I did not have time. Please play test it. Give me feedback because I'm really proud of the narrative. I'm just working out the mechanics. But as far as the other campaign formats, we have Company of Heroes, which might ring a bell from earlier conversation. We have Company of Players. What does that mean? Who knows? And then there's the Hex Map campaign, as we just talked about.
Yes.
And then the greatest mystery of them all is the Crab. It is one company runs all the Battle Company's campaigns at once.
Right, okay. Jesus.
Basically, Commi went mad one day and decided, rather than being one company, Commi runs all the Battle Company campaigns at once.
Yeah, so I took Sharky's Rogues through every narrative campaign.
And decided this would be a fantastic way for other people to play.
Yeah, and I was like,
let's write it all down.
It actually works.
Fun. Yeah. It's great for solo. Like if you only have like two people, that want to play Battle Companies, you can have them both share a company, and then people can take turns being the narrative scenario, and you can just see how far this company goes. But
yeah, it's
the
basically
details I'll leave.
Fellowship. It's basically sort of like running Fellowship campaigns or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it.
Next thing you know, Kings ran a crab campaign.
Yeah, that's Battle Companies.
Yeah, that's a nice way to celebrate the anniversary. It's like, bam, here's King's Edition that a lot of people love. Bam,
yeah, it's weird how 20th anniversary and our 3rd anniversary have come around at the same fucking time.
Beautiful. It's almost like it was meant to happen.
It's so good.
It seems like it's meant to happen, but it's completely coincidental.
You guys telling me this all the way through?
Oddly enough, no.
Nothing is planned here. It just
happened. It seems to.
Thank you so much, Val, for joining us for this detour into Battle Companies from our usual discussions of events and stuff.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
I am now going to be trying to work out. I'm now going to be trying to work out how to do some sort of like burglar scavenger path, so I can like ham fist it into the community edition version that's coming out.
Next thing you know, you've got a Scouts Done Lending showing up. Path of the know what I mean?
And
mate,
if you don't,
you need that sword.
Yeah, if you don't see it in the community edition book, keep an eye out for this thing called the Battle Companies Bazaar, which would also be in this announcement post that this episode was in, which is a community submission hub. So things that maybe due to space or formatting can't fit in the book, or for whatever reason, there's going to be a Google Drive folder released that's going to have submissions that have been formalized by people in the community. That think of it like I don't know, like a GitHub or something, where you can see a bunch of stuff that people have done. We have also, I recommend joining our www.discord.com/invite/MESBG and check out our homebrew forum that we have on the Discord, where you can also submit ideas to then be submitted to the bazaar. There's sort of like a little railroad that things can go through. They're talked about in a general channel, then they're posted into the homebrew as like a formalized, hey, everyone take a look at this. Like this has been, hammered out a bit more. And then if that gets, a whole lot of positive feedback, people really like it, they really enjoy it, gets added to the bazaar. And then from there, the workflow would be that it would potentially, no, not guaranteed, but potentially would then move from the bazaar into the community edition proper. But the idea is that the bazaar is kind of like the backpack that the community edition wears, the bag of holding, if you will.
Yeah.
It's basically so we don't have to write about a million different like mini supplements and end up doing a Games Workshop.
Exactly. I mean, it'd still be free, but it would be a lot of PDFs. A lot of supplements for us to have to put through.
Well, it's
And
more
honestly,
lot of supplements everyone else has to read for.
yeah. I mean, and it's not. Yeah, and it's to help also emphasize the fact that it's not just Val, myself, and the other folks here in the Discord. This is a whole community effort, and that should be apparent in the updates that have happened to the rulebook as people have provided input and advice and some things that are broken that need fixing. And so I'm hoping to just nurture that even further with this Battle Companies Bazaar. But yeah, thank you, King, for being a blind sheep walking into the wolves' den of Battle Companies.
Being a blind sheep to running an event, and then I go ahead and my first short online event, but an event nonetheless.
Yeah,
And now you've got me hooked onto this Battle Company stuff. Next thing you know, I'm writing one of the supplements. You never know. But
I'm looking forward to it.
Knowledge.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
I would be looking forward to that as well.
Oh, yeah. Next thing you know, you've got some crazy like War in the Mountains supplement. No, Battle Companies in the Mountains supplement from me. Ooh, you never know. Keep an eye out. But thank you guys for sharing the knowledge, and thank you anybody who's listening, because we do like to ramble.
Yeah, thank you. I guess without further ado, that's it. So
Take care.
This was Discord in the Ranks. Take care, stay warm, watch for moose.
Watch for moose.
Oh god, yeah, I forgot he's in Maine.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for those in England, just watch your back and look out for scouts.
And I guess farewell, everyone.
That is.
See you later, guys.